What's up, guys? This is Pedro from My Stuttering Life, where you will hear the good, the bad, the very ugly. We're gonna laugh, we're gonna cry, but through it all, just know that you are not alone. So, let's get started. Welcome, Andrea Callegaro.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, sir. This is a huge honor. We have a lot of topics to cover, so let's get started. So, do you remember when you first began to stutter?
It's a good question. Like, I don't really have a memory of a moment in which I stuttered, maybe as a kid. But what I remember was my mother being surprised. I was talking to her, and I still remember her face being a bit surprised. And I remember, like, one of our family, like a friend of ours, he stuttered. So at the beginning, I remember her talking to my dad and being like, oh, maybe he is stuttering because of our friend, so maybe he's picking up some, because like there's still not a lot of awareness of stuttering here in Italy. So that was the thing. And then I have a memory in school. Yes, I think I was more or less, I think I was in primary school. I was 7 or 8 years old. And I remember stuttering. I remember stuttering while reading, because that's actually something that I know that some people who stutter don't have problems with reading. I actually do. I don't like reading. And I remember being in school and the teacher looking at me, somebody laughing, but at the same time I remember the teaching being quite vocal about that and being like, okay, if Andrea does that, nobody laughs here. And so I felt okay, I felt protected in a certain way.
Well, first off, that is a great teacher there. I mean, to
Yes.
have her
Yes.
tell all of the other kids there'll be zero laughing and zero mocking.
Yeah.
Gosh, I wish I had that, Andrea. I did not have that.
Well, I mean, not every teacher.
Right, but I mean,
not every. Yeah, no, she was the one that maybe was the most sensitive one, because many other teachers, I think, that were as surprised as the other kids, because of course, at the beginning, I think that the first feeling of people that maybe are not really aware or don't really know how to deal with a person who stutters, I think it's just surprise. They're just like a bit surprised. They don't know how to react. Maybe the kid laughed simply because he didn't know what to do, or maybe he was surprised by the fact that I started stuttering. Maybe the day before I wasn't, and he was surprised. But yes, I remember the teacher being quite nice. And again, I think it's not even easy for a teacher when it comes to have, not easy. Maybe easy is not the right word. But as a teacher myself, it's kind of challenging sometimes if you have a kid that stutter, because it's difficult on from the point, like, from any level, and it's difficult for people that are not aware of stutter, like what should I do to help a kid, what is the best way to help him or to help her. So I kind of understand it in a way. But yeah, she was nice.
See, and that is just awesome, because I never had that in school. I mean, whenever we would have to read out loud, I did that one time, Andrea, one time, and it was horrible. I mean, and the kids were
Mm.
laughing, and they called me names, and then I told myself this will never happen again. And so every time that we had to read out loud, I would raise my hand and go to the boys' restroom. And so, I would hang out there, until until
Yeah.
my turn was over, and then I would come back, and then everything would be good. I mean, because you don't forget that type of trauma. You don't. It just follows you. It follows you.
Yeah. Yeah. But well, look, for example, when I was in high school, things were actually different. Because when I was in primary school, I also think that when you're a kid, it's not such a big problem because you're not still in that kind of insecurity of like when you're a teenager, things are just more difficult, for everybody. And I remember being in class, and when it was time to read, I just pretended to have a headache, or I just pretended that I had to go to the toilet, all those kind of things.
Yeah, me
I mean,
too.
being a person who stutter, when you're when you're a teenager, you have a lot of headaches, right? So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of headaches. So now, does it run in your family? Are there any other family members who stutter?
This is actually something that I've been looking for because it's not clear. Because my parents have always told me that they don't know anybody, but my mother has some kind of a memory of one of her uncles stuttering. But again, we're talking about Italy in the 20s or in the 30s. So you can imagine, how stuttering was dealt with. Huge stigma, something to hide. Even on a familiar level, it wasn't something you really could speak of. It was just something like, okay, this uncle, maybe he's crazy, maybe he's mental, maybe he has something that is not working well, because how it was here in Italy in the 30s was really bad from that point of view. And so for what I know, there's this uncle that at one point maybe stuttered, but I don't know anybody in my family that actually stutter. And I mean, I don't have a severe stutter myself. So yeah.
Did you ever have speech therapy in school? And if you did, was it helpful?
So this is a kind of an interesting question, because I had speech therapy. So the first time when I was a kid, I was again 7 or 8. I was in primary school, and I remember going to speech therapy, and I remember the therapist telling my parents he doesn't stutter, and my parents being like, well, he actually stutters. Even the teachers told us to come here. But the speech therapist was, no, he doesn't stutter. Maybe he blocks sometimes, but nothing serious. I cannot do anything for him. And so that was the first experience that I had. And then I had a second experience as a teenager. So, to cure all my headaches, that I had to, whenever I had to read or something. Because yes, I mean, when I was a teenager, I had a moment in my life in which really I didn't really even want to go to school because of that. So it was kind of heavy psychologically speaking. And I found this therapist, this speech therapist. She was a friend of a friend of a friend. She was retired. She was a very nice old lady. And I have a very nice memory of her because of how she was. She was really nice. She was like a grandma type of speech therapist. And but at the same time, now that I'm reading about stuttering, and I'm trying to be more aware myself, to get to know more stuff, I'm realizing that many of the things that she taught me made me a covert stutterer. So for example, I'm a teacher myself, so I use my voice all the time. And I realized that the fatigue that I feel after a lesson is not due to my stuttering, but to all, the monitoring that is going on in my head, anxiety and fear. And for example, I've been teaching English for a few years, and imagine that you basically have to speak a second language, and at the same time having, all the time that kind of monitoring, changing words. So if you ask me, was that a good experience? Did it help you? Maybe it helped me at the time to be more aware, to be more, also to be, just to have the feeling of somebody taking care of me, of being helped. But at the same time, in the long term, did it really help me to become an honest stutterer? No. And that's what I would like to be, one day, just to be open and stutter, and to be more honest, more transparent. But yeah.
See, I've had 20 years, of speech therapy. So what you are hearing is just 20 years of really hard work. I mean, I have tried everything. I tried voodoo, that didn't work. I also did hypnosis. And so
Oh, wow.
the best part about hypnosis is that it was the first time that my entire body was at rest. I mean, every organ
Wow.
was just at rest, and I had never felt that way. And in in hearing you speak, talking about the mental drain, um, we call that mental gymnastics. So, as I am talking to you, I know all the words that are, coming down the pike. And if there are words that I'm not able to pronounce in my head, I will switch it. As I'm still talking to you, I'm doing that in my head. And so I understand at the end of the day, you have nothing. you are, you are mentally,
Yeah.
physically, psychologically, you are drained. And so believe me, Andrea, I have been in your shoes. I am still in your shoes. 'Cause, I mean, you are a teacher in Italy, and 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 so here I am a trainer. So I teach. And so
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole day, Andrea, I am focusing on, I need to breathe. I need to breathe. I need to be
It's tough.
present. Yes, it is. It's tough. I mean, plus, plus what I tell everybody is I disclose. So I tell my
Yeah.
class, hi, good morning. I'm Pedro. I have a stutter. So if I get hung up on any word, give me 8 hours and the word will come out. And if you know what I'm trying to say, help you help me, help you help me. Because I believe that teamwork makes the dream work. And once I tell them that, and they have a little laugh, it's like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Because I have already
Yeah.
put it out there. And now I just have to do my thing. And if I get hung up on any word, I'm going to stop. I'm going to breathe. And then, I will carry on. And there have been some days, Andrea, where I'm having the most difficulty, and the participants in the training, they will help me out. And so I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I had the same experience. And the thing is that when you disclose stuttering, I think that you create some kind of an empathic environment in which people are more allowed to help you. Because maybe, people actually, sometimes they just don't know what to do. And by disclosing, I think that not only you take a lot of stress out from yourself, I think, because I still play the game of let's see if they will find out that I'm still trying, I'm still trying to not to show it. It's I think it's part of the journey of acceptance and becoming more aware of who you are, and the fact that it doesn't impact who you are, in terms of value. But I still do it, and now I'm starting to disclose it again, because when I speak English, I don't stutter as much as when I speak Italian. So now maybe I don't stutter a lot, but when I speak Italian, I stutter more. So it's easier to disclose it, and it's so nice to see that people help you. When you disclose it, maybe they even like the fact that he's honest, and he's not afraid of that. So you create this kind of empathy that I think is really important. So for you, it's not a problem if people complete your awards, because it's not even for me. If people help me, sometimes it's not a problem. But I know people that don't really like it. For you, it's not a problem.
See, and you bring up a great point. And when I do a training, I tell them all, many of them, after the training, they would, you know, hang around and tell me, thank you for letting me know how I can help you. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
you hit it right on the head. They didn't know how to respond. And by just, putting it out there and telling them it's okay to help Pedro. I know that, there are a lot of people, Andrea. I mean, it's split right down the middle. I know a lot of people, they don't want you to finish their sentences.
Yeah.
That's how I was in school a long time ago. However, now, that I'm, I'm older, a little wiser, not that much, but a little wiser. Um, I'm tired. Andrea, I'm tired. And so if you know what I'm trying to say, it's okay for Pedro. It's okay.
Yeah.
Plus, it is always appropriate to ask, do you mind if I help you? If you get hung up on any word, a block, whatever,
Yeah.
do you mind
Yes.
if I help you? And I appreciate that, because that shows me
Yes.
their, level of, compassion and respect and integrity.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
so, yeah.
Also, because I studied philosophy, and I studied language and politics. So even from a more theoretical point of view, if you think about it, a conversation is always something you do with another person at least, so there's always some kind of cooperation. We people who stutter, sometimes we tend to forget, and we think more like, I am talking to somebody, I am just one who is talking, right? But you speak to somebody and you stutter a lot. You speak to somebody else and you stutter less. So there's always this component of cooperation, of something you do together with another person. And that explains why we tend to stutter maybe a bit less with somebody that maybe is helping us a bit more. So I think it makes sense. It totally makes sense.
See, and that is a great observation, because I might get asked all the time, why do I stutter less with, my buddies, but, when I'm at home, I stutter, more.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, I think it's part of the fact that we are social beings, and whatever we do is social. Even stuttering is social. It's not just something that I do and I'm just in a vacuum, but I'm stuttering, and it's a way of communicating at the end of the day, and I'm talking to somebody, and if that person is able to listen to me in a proactive way, why not? Even the act of listening, from my point of view, is not as passive as we often think it is. Listening is very active, and the person who shows you, I am listening to you, I care about what you're saying, what you are saying is important, is probably helping you to, in a way, is giving you importance, is making you feel good, is making you feel like what you're saying is important. So it is an active process. It's something that that is important, and that maybe explains why we tend to stutter a bit more with some people. I mean, I tend to stutter a lot, for example, during exams, which is kind of normal. But at the same time, if you think about it, also depends on the relationship that you have with the teacher, with the professor. If you know that the professor is going to judge or to evaluate you for what you're saying and not for how you're saying, well, that helps. Also, in terms of how the conversation flows, it's a very human thing, I think.
you were talking about briefly your school life.
Yeah.
How did you handle school with having a stutter, and how did you handle the bullies?
Wow, good question. Good question. So when I was a kid, as I told you earlier, it wasn't really a problem. Probably because I really had very good teachers when I was in primary school. So I wasn't really bullied. I wouldn't say that. There were some episodes, but yeah, for me it wasn't such a big problem. Problems arrived when I went to high school. Not in terms maybe of bullying, of explicit, like I've never really been explicitly bullied. But I had some isolation. I felt lonely. I felt maybe what I was looking for in high school was also some kind of support from the teachers that I didn't find at all. In high school, things were more like, well, you're a teenager, you are almost a man, you should be able to deal with your own problems. This kind of attitude that doesn't help anybody at the end of the day. So how did I deal with it? Well, I used to run away. But then at one point I realized that it couldn't work. It couldn't work. So I started going to speech therapy. I even went to therapy itself in order to deal with my anxiety, because I had a lot of anxiety, which is kind of normal for us. Therapy helped me a lot from the point of view. It really helped me to see things from a different point of view, to realize, I mean, I was 16, so pretty young still, but I learned to look at myself, and also to stop considering stuttering as a divine punishment, or as something so big and so unfair. Oh my God, why me? Why me? And when you're a teenager, and you have some kind of a, I mean, it's a very dramatic phase for everybody, so it's very easy, to become like that. I've always been quite good at school, so probably being good at school and studying a lot and being the first of the class was a way for me to show people, okay, I might stutter, but I'm good, I can do things. So if I wasn't good at school, that probably would have been far, far heavier. The real challenge for me was university, because I chose philosophy and every exam was oral. And as you can imagine, the first one was was really like, I failed horribly because I just started stuttering. I felt like I couldn't do it, And as often life goes, the second was a bit easier, it went a bit better, and the third, it went better, and in the end, it went really well. But yeah, that was probably a challenge that in the long term really helped me to understand that I could do it, because really at the beginning, I really felt I cannot do it. I cannot speak in front of a class. I mean, there was the professor in front of me and 50 people behind me, and I just started stuttering. And he asked me to help me. Can you read this text? Thinking he was helping me.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was, yeah. Yes. And I started studying even more, So, but again, I think resilience is important in life. You can fail, it's part of life. But at the same time, if you do your best at one point, you will improve and you will learn to cope with difficulties, I think.
See, you bring up some great points, because when I went to college, we had to do, group presentations. My major was, pre-law, but I had changed it, and so I majored in psychology, and so we would have a lot of group
Oh,
projects. So what I would do, I said, no, Pedro's smart. I will tell the members of my group. I said, if you know if y- okay, to have me not talk, I'll do all the work. I'll do all of the research. I will type everything up. I will do everything in PowerPoint. I will make everything look fantastic. But I can't. I will not be speaking.
yeah.
Once I had presented that to the group, oh, they were all in. They were all in. They go, oh, it's all good. So I did all
You
of the
do the
work.
work.
Yes, I did all the work in PowerPoint and Word and the graphics and everything. I did everything because I
Yeah.
knew to um get up in front of hundreds of people and your college professor. At that moment
Yeah.
in time, I knew that, you know, I can't do this. I can't. So,
Yeah.
I would barter and make deals, and that's how I survived 4 years of undergraduate and then 3 years in graduate school. I mean, uh, um, those group projects. Whew, I was like, yes, here's where I can, like you.
It's tough.
Yes, here is where Pedro can
It's tough.
sh- shine and do awesome work. However, I will not be speaking. So that was my deal. It worked all through school.
I could not do it. I could not do it because I mean I was, like in Italy, things were different for me. But at the same time, I think that when you are pushed a bit, maybe at the beginning can be challenging, can be harsh, can be difficult, but in the long term it pays off because you can actually go beyond your comfort zone and actually, I mean, and I think when we are afraid of something, experiencing that, generally you actually realize, well, I failed, okay, but I can try again. It's not such a big thing as I thought, so it's also important, I think, to sometimes go beyond your but it is tough, it is difficult, especially when you're younger.
Right. Because all through school, for me, it was about survival. I need to graduate. I need to make good grades, and that way,
Yes.
I could have a good career. So I did everything. I bartered. I will do everything just as long as I don't have to speak. Yeah, it worked out, in school.
Yeah.
Um, oh, mhm, go ahead.
No, I mean, I did the same, by the way. It was my mindset when I was in high school. It was the mindset that I had. I would have, for example, when I was in primary school, I used to be part of a theater group. And I have listened to an episode, and I know that you were too in high school, right? But I was when I was in primary school, and for me it wasn't a problem at all, my stuttering, because maybe I wasn't. It wasn't, a problem for me at the time. But when I was in high school, never ever I would have done that, because in my case, I stutter when I am forced to say certain words. I stutter more. For me, probably the fact that I don't stutter a lot when I speak another language is because I can always pretend I don't know the words in a certain way. So I always have a way, out. But when when I play or when I have to read something, those are the words. And that was such. I mean, I was so sad about it, because I liked it and I wanted to be in theater. But in high school, for me, it was too much. It was beyond my. Yeah.
Yes, I loved, you know, theater. I'm in school because th- these amazing group of kids, they just welcomed me in and they did not care that I had a stutter. I mean, it's like, wow, where have
Yeah.
all y'all been my entire life? It happened my last year in high school. I said, where have y'all been my entire school life? I could have,
The last year.
I'm telling you, I could have had, y'all's help in the first grade, in the second grade, but, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
d- do you have any advice for parents, teachers, and speech therapists with regards to children who stutter?
This is a very good question, like the others, but this is a especially good question because I would like to become a support teacher one day. Now I'm a language teacher, um, and so it's a very nice question. Um, what I would say, well, in the first place, what I would try to to tell, I mean, when it comes to teachers, what I think is the best thing to do is to, in the first place, talk with the parents and suggest, especially if we're talking about a kid, it's young, speech therapy, of course, It's very important. At the same time, teachers, I think that they should learn how to be empathic with children who stutter, like with every child in general, of course, but especially with a child that stutters, because really we know how stuttering, we know that we just see the tip of the iceberg, and so taking care of all the rest, it's for a kid can be difficult, can be very difficult. So empathy in the first place, and talk to the parents and find a speech therapist. At the same time, and this I think is very important for parents and for the kid, I would try to make them aware of the fact that even if you stutter, you can have a great life. That actually stuttering might make you a strong person, or that might even help you. So what I would really try to fight is the stigma, is the idea that, oh, my child stutters, oh, how could, maybe he won't have a nice, and here in Italy, this is huge. There's really a big problem about stigma. So that is the first thing I would say. I would try to make them aware that fluency doesn't always mean happiness. There are many different. It's more like a gray scale than just a yes or no. I'm fluent or I'm not fluent. And you can work on it. And even if you are not completely fluent, you can still have a wonderful life. You can still be surrounded by friends. Of course, it's obvious, but when you're surrounded by stigma, you have to say these kind of things. You have to be vocal on that. And I think that we also have to question a bit the idea of normalcy, of like, oh, he stutters or she stutters, so she's not like the others. Well, nobody is normal at the end of the day. We have to fight against this idea that somebody is normal and somebody is abnormal, and if you don't speak fluently, then you are not fluent. That's not okay. That's not okay. And so I would try. I would try to work on the parents and also with the children on these kind of things, because I think that's the starting point. Otherwise, if I look back at my life, and if I had somebody telling me this when I was a teenager, of course, I was a teenager, so I would have I would have not cared, probably. How teenagers are. But still, we are surrounded by narratives of normalcy, of you should be normal, you should work to be normal. If you're not normal, that's not okay. If you're not normal, you're not gonna be happy. And so that's the main thing. I would work maybe more on an educational and political and sociological level, or also on a psychological level. Of course, speech therapy is key. Even therapy sometimes can be really important. But I think there should also be a big change from a cultural point of view.
What would you tell the speech therapist?
Yeah. As a teacher of a child who stutter, or as a patient, as a teacher? That's that's a tough question, because as I told you earlier, my speech therapy experiences have been okayish, in the sense that, I like the people, I like the speech therapists. They were very nice people, and I'm sure that they were doing the best, or that they meant to do the best that they could. But at the same time, speech therapy sometimes could work as a reinforcer of normalcy. So speech therapy is key, is important to help a person develop some certain skills. But I would not say that. I would also underline that fluency is not happiness. We need also to to realize that we cannot spend our lives running after a fluency dream as if it was the solution for everything. So I would encourage, of course, the children to go to a speech therapist. Of course, I think it's very important. At the same time, I would tell the speech therapist, let's also work on the psychological level. Let's also work on the social. I mean, for example, what I would like to do as a teacher is to work with a classroom, not just with a kid who stutter. But what I would like to do is to work with all the children, all the people in the classroom, and to have, for example, a stuttering awareness day. So what is stuttering? How can we help our friend? Does he need to be helped? Maybe he doesn't want to be helped, to make him speak and to explain to the other people, even if he's a child, he will know, he knows how he feels, or she knows how she feels. So yes, I would try to make it more like a social type of thing, because again, conversation is a social type of thing. So if we want the kid to feel good, we also need to take care of him or of her a bit. We don't need to do a lot, but I think that would be very important.
That is the best answer that I've heard in a while, because you touched on a huge aspect that I never had growing up in speech therapy. They focused on get Pedro like everybody else. Okay.
Yeah.
We have to get Pedro fluent like everybody else in school. And so I felt it's like, okay, so I'm broken. I'm damaged. There is,
Yeah.
there is something wrong with me, and here you are, the speech therapist. And granted, at that time, okay, and so I'm talking about the late 1970s, because I'm a lot older than you are, Andrea. A little bit older than you are. So at that time, they just focused on, let's get Pedro fluent. And you touched on a fantastic, a wonderful aspect, the mental health aspect of stuttering. I wish, Andrea, I wish
Yes.
I had that growing up in school, because I would have learned how to handle the how how to handle life's stressors as a person who stutters. I mean,
Yeah.
I went into the darkness, and when I say darkness, I was in the darkness because I did not have friends. And
Yeah.
one of my previous guests, she had made a point that it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I hadn't ever thought about this. Um, Going to school and being alone, because nobody wanted to hang around the kid who couldn't talk. No one wanted to be around Pedro, who would sputter and spit, and nobody wanted to hang hang around him all through school. So what I would do is I would eat lunch alone in the janitor's closet, you know or be behind the school. So from grade 1 all the way to grade 11, I didn't know how to make a friend. I didn't know how to be a friend. When she had told me that, I said, I mean, hold up, wait. Um, the bricks were all falling into place because I only have a handful of good friends. I mean, I can count them on my hand. I mean, just a handful. And
Yeah.
I haven't always been a good friend, but I learned, later in life, like in my 40s, I learned how to be a good
Yeah.
friend because I never had that growing up in school because I was always you 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 I was always alone. So had I had that mental component in my speech therapy, I mean, that would have just helped me out tremendously. Um, in school,
Yes.
then also later in life. So, I mean, that
Yes.
was an awesome answer. Awesome answer.
I mean, I also have to be honest with you. I mean, I think that um, as a support teacher, I'm starting to look at things a bit differently, from the point of view of people with disability and so on. And your experience is very similar to many, to other people experiences that, because sometimes when people are not considered to be normal, people that are not normal in the perfect average, they have to be excluded. And you can see it even in the past, for even like for mental illness, and I mean, if we look back, we can find a lot of examples from this point of view. This idea that if you are not like the average, you cannot be there. You have to be somewhere else. You have to be excluded, which is awful. And if you think about the fact that we're talking about school, we know that the world is unfair. But as a teacher myself, maybe I am very idealistic, but as a teacher, school should be fair. So the idea of a kid not being included because he or she is different is, from my point of view, very difficult to accept. Because I mean, we are all different, and I know this sounds a bit like rhetorical, but looking at things from the normalcy point of view, I think it's very dangerous. And I think it's very, and it doesn't even, I mean, it didn't even help your friends at school. Because I am sure that if your friends at school would have learned, like they could have learned a lot from you, from the relationship that you could have, so it was a loss for everybody. And I hope that one day school will work in a more inclusive way, because I mean, that's life at the end of the day. We always meet people who are not constantly in the average or normal from many point of views. So what should we do?
Right. I mean, many people that I talk to, they talk about, well, he speaks, you know, normally. And it's like, I was like, please don't use that word normal. Nobody. I mean, like what you told me,
Yeah.
nobody is normal. I mean, everybody has something or other, but nobody is normal. You and to tell a person who has a stutter, here's where I want to, take you to, is being normal. No. I am Pedro. There's no one else like Pedro in the world. I am I am unique. I am awesome. I have, tons of energy, and then I have a stutter. It it doesn't define who I am. It's just what I have. I mean, we're all different. We're all different. I mean, you made a great point. We need to celebrate let's celebrate diversity. We're all different.
Of course. Yes. Yes. The
Okay.
idea of normalcy, I think it is still there. I think it's very difficult to find a different framework, to find different concepts for, even when we look at the media, movies, books. It is so like it's everywhere. It's everywhere. The idea that normalcy is good, that normalcy is happiness, that if you're normal, you're happy, and if you're not normal, then you are abnormal, and that means, oh my God, your life's gonna be awful. So again, as I said earlier, I think that I'm not saying that speech therapy in itself, of course, is bad. Actually, it's very good, it's necessary, it's important, and speech therapists are very good people, and they always try to help people. But at the same time, we cannot reinforce the idea of normalcy. We cannot say to a kid, I will teach you to be fluent. In that way, you will have a normal life. Otherwise, oh my God. And I mean, maybe in the States, things are a bit different, but here in Italy, this is still the kind of narrative that you always hear. For any kind of disability, stuttering, any type of diversity, you have to work towards normalcy. You cannot simply why don't we discuss about normalcy? Why don't we try to fight against this idea? Because that, at the end of the day, I think that's actually the main cause for stigma. Because if we think about it, that's where stigma comes from. Because, and again, I've also met, unfortunately, some people who stutter, who reinforce this kind of thing, who tell you, oh, I stutter, I will never be normal. Oh my God, my life is a mess. I will never be happy, And, so I really feel, their pain, and I try to help them, and I try to talk with them to make them realize, look, people that are fluent can have a miserable life too. I mean, of course, I hope that everybody's happy, but fluency and normalcy doesn't mean happiness. Actually, we should work to fight these kind of ideas, because they are not helping anybody, I think. Not even people that are considered to be normal at the end of the day. So yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we are a vulnerable population. We are, and and I can't tell you how many emails I get, Andrea. I get emails. I can cure your stutter in 2 days. All you have to do is pay me $8,000, and then I will cure you in 2 days.
God.
And then there was another email telling me that if I put bay leaves under my tongue for a whole week, it will cure my stutter and get you normal. And it's like, so I just like, I block and delete, block and delete, because I mean, it's all about education. It's all about education. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there are a lot of people out there who do prey on us because we are that vulnerable, population. Because I'm in school. I mean, I would give anything if I could talk like everybody else. I mean, I would steal, beg, borrow. I would do anything, you know, to be normal and not to suffer every single day. I mean, I don't have to tell you, Andrea, but I mean, just every single day, you know,
Yeah.
s- 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 you know, s- s- suffering, and so I can understand the younger generation. Uh,
Totally.
Give me a pill. Let me pay you all this money and give me a pill, and that will help me
Yeah.
and take away my stutter. And I mean, it's uh, you know
It's
to
comprehensible. Yeah.
right. And then later on, when they do take those pills, you know, uh, um, they find out later on they still have their stutter. So all of their hopes and dreams have been crashed down, and that is more harmful than anything else. And so, I mean, like you, it's all about education. Education. Let's remove stigma. And then
Yeah.
for me, it's okay to stutter because I'm awesome. I know Pedro is awesome because I mean, every day I do my thing. I do my thing. And if I stutter, oh, well, guess what? Life goes on. The world isn't going to stop because I cannot say my name. No, life goes on.
Yes. Yes. I think also we tend to look at things from the stuttering problem as if everything was about stuttering. And at the end of the day, I mean, as you said, we can stutter and life goes on, and we can have, not even still, we can have a wonderful life. I mean, that's not even still, like, why shouldn't I have a nice life if I stutter? So, but again, yes, as you said, it's about education. I think it's also about socializing a bit the thing. For example, talking with people that don't stutter, making it, also something a bit more like political in terms of politics, in terms of dealing with other people. Not about the party or but about just living on the earth and having social activities with other people. And again, conversation is a social activity, so we should include also people that don't stutter in these kind of things. And I think that most of the times we will find out that people are nice, and if they can, they will be happy to help us. And but yes, especially you made you talked about the pill, which is a very good example, because at the end of the day, when we medicalize stuttering, and we just think in terms of therapy, oh, it's your problem, it's his problem, he is the one who stutters, we individualize the problem, it's just his problem, let him go to a speech therapy, let him take a pill, so that is good, but it's not enough. And I don't think stuttering should be an individual thing, but it should be more a social thing. And I've seen it also with people who stutter, or with children who stutter, realizing that they can actually talk about it, that people can actually help them. You can just see them. They're so happy about it. It's just a new way of looking at things. And it's not just about you, it's about us.
Right. I mean, we each have our own journeys. And those those people who stutter who reach out to me, and tell me, well, I'm on this medication and that medication, and it has helped me out. So how I respond, I'm happy for you. That is wonderful. If that is your journey, I'm happy for you, and I support you. We're all different. We're all different. I've had 20 years of speech
Yeah.
therapy. I've done hypnosis. I did voodoo. I'm at a point in my life I have it. It's all good. I love me some Pedro. Pedro is cool. And so I will just live my life every day, just having a good time. Eh, Because, life is short. You have to enjoy life every single day. And what I do, that is what I do. I laugh every day. I I mean, we have those days, Andrea, which I'm sure you have. You have those horrible days,
Of
but
course.
what I do tomorrow is a whole other day. I'm going to focus on,
Of course.
I will work on my diaphragmatic breathing. I will do my mindful meditation. I will do my positive affirmations, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be awesome. I'm not even going to worry about it. Why put all that energy into the unknown? It is exhausting.
It
So
is.
what I do now, I don't worry about the future. There's no use in it because you don't know what will happen. So what I can do today is I can just prepare. I can breathe, mindful meditation, I read out loud, it's all good. And then I just move on. I move on.
You just leave. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Now,
I think you're
okay.
right. I think you're right.
hmm Um, okay, let's switch gears. You know, job wise. Okay. I know it's hard to prove in a court of law, but we know, Andrea, we know. Um, have you ever faced discrimination because of your stutter?
It's difficult to say. I don't think so. I don't think so. But again, it's difficult to say for me because I mean, as a language teacher, I mean, I don't have a very severe stutter. So when I speak English, as you can see, I don't stutter so much, and I've been mainly teaching and working in English in the past few years. I would even say that I've only worked in English because I've worked abroad, and then I came back to Italy and I worked here as an English teacher. Now I'm working as an Italian teacher online, so I didn't have any interview because I am my own manager, my own boss. So I would say I didn't. It doesn't, but you also have to take into consideration that I am very critical about myself in terms of how I do things, and for me, if somebody tells me, but just because of who I am, if somebody tells me, no, you're not the one that we're looking for, I'm too proud to say it's because of the stuttering. I would say, oh, it's because I'm not good enough. It's because I don't have experience. But that it doesn't mean that in Italy there's no stigma about it, or that people, would not accept you or would not select you because you stutter. It is a very difficult problem. I mean, and also in terms of how you imagine, I think like every time I think about working and jobs, and I think it for me the main problem was about imagining a possible career, a possible job. That for me was actually the most difficult thing, because again, I'm a teacher, and in a way it's my passion, but at the same time I stutter, and I have to use my voice like you. I think we're in the same, in the same situation. It's your passion, but at the same time you stutter, so you have a lot of fatigue. It's difficult, and you're not sure whether people will actually take you seriously. Will they give me a job as a teacher if I stutter? So maybe I can tell you a secret, because I know that nobody's listening. I think that
Right.
I think that I did because I studied philosophy, and I think that I switched to language teaching probably because I don't stutter when I speak English. So maybe I would be afraid to teach in Italian, probably philosophy in front of a class. I would be still. I mean, I hope one day I will be not, and I will be. But I mean, it's part of the journey. So working in a school, teaching a bunch of kids, teaching teenagers philosophy, will a manager choose me? Will a school manager choose me even if I stutter? It's something I maybe try not to think about. I'm a bit afraid of it, honestly.
You were talking about teaching online. Do you teach via Zoom or Skype or Teams or many other web-based platform?
All of them. You can name them, all of them. Yeah. I teach on Zoom, mainly on Zoom and Skype. And I actually found them easier for me than teaching with the physical person. For me, it's actually easier to teach online. Maybe again, because if I have a block, I can close the call and blame the connection. I don't know. But well, I cannot lag in real life. I cannot pretend, sorry, it's the connection. But for me, it's easier online. I don't know why. Maybe because I have the feeling that I can run away if there's a problem. I don't know.
Okay, see, and that is so interesting because pre-pandemic, I would be teaching in a huge auditorium, teaching in a a regular training room, and face to face, I was good. I mean, I was good. I had the good interaction. I had the good eye contact. I made a couple
Oh,
of
wow.
jokes. Everything was great. Now we're in the pandemic. Andrea, let me tell you, they said, no, Pedro, now you will be doing everything via Zoom and or Teams. And let me tell you, my heart went into my left shoe. I said, how can I do this? I've never done it before. I mean, how your life just, flashes for your eyes. Well, that's what happened to me. I thought, oh my God, I can't do this job anymore. I can't. I will have to
Oh, wow.
quit, and then I will have to do something else. I will have to eat beans and rice every day because I have no job now. I mean, I went to the extreme until
And
I told myself, okay, hold up. Okay, so I had 2 weeks, to prepare. So what I did, I called up a buddy. I said, look, I now have to do everything via Zoom, Skype, and or Teams. So we had to practice. And so, I mean, I practiced with him on Zoom, and I mean, I went through my, presentation, my icebreaker, I mean, did it over and over and over and over and over until it's like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Because, now that I did it a couple of times, and then I practiced, I was building up that muscle memory. So when it came time to do my my training, you know, and there's, all those people and all those webcams, I had to turn off my webcam and microphone and breathe. Okay, you got this, Pedro. You got this. You got this. And so I turned it back on and said, "Hey, good morning. I'm Pedro. I will be your trainer for this morning. I do have a speech impediment, so I have a stutter. So if at any time I get hung up on any word, give me 8 hours." And then I heard them laugh. I said, "Oh, I got them. I got them. I got them." And after I was all done, I did it. I did not die of
That's a very
embarrassment.
good starting sentence, by the way.
It has worked time. It has
But
worked every time, and it's awesome. You may borrow it.
yes. Thank you so much. But actually, no, I wanted to ask you because I mean, I was surprised because since you're a podcaster, right, and you interview people, wasn't this podcast for you some kind of a practice? Like, didn't you think of the podcast as a practice? Like when you had the news that you would have started to go online and having online classes, in your mind you didn't think, oh well, I've interviewed so many people online, I've had this kind of, with my podcast. It wasn't something similar for you, it was something different, like giving online classes and this podcast, they were not on the same path, kind of.
This was different. What I do is I put everything in boxes. Okay. I
Okay.
compartmentalize everything. And so my podcasting is a whole other issue. That's a part
Oh,
of my life. My career is a whole different part of my life. And in my career,
okay.
if I can't do this, then I have to go. And the just pile on everything, pressure, anxiety,
Of course. Yeah.
fear, the F word, fear. I mean, you know, when I was told that I now have to do this through the webcam, Zoom, Teams, I mean, I kid you not, Andrea, I came home, I turned off all of the lights, s- s- sat on the couch, and thought about my entire life. Can I do this? What if I can't?
Stuff.
Will I be let go? And I have a mortgage. I have a teenager that has to eat every other hour. I mean, I have a dog that likes to eat every day. I mean, it's and and I mean, I kid you not,
Yeah,
was not I wasn't able to eat or drink or even go to s- bed. That was the power of anxiety, of the unknown, and fear.
I can understand that perfectly. Yeah.
Then,
Every time I start a new job, even though I'm a teacher, and I mean, I have some experience, but every time I start teaching, I always go through this phase. Maybe because I don't know, I still don't see myself as a very experienced teacher. But I think it's kind of a common experience for us people who stutter, to have this feeling of, will my performance be good enough, and it's very heavy. It is very harsh. It is very harsh. Again, I think it is still connected to the idea of what a normal performance should be. So I think it still goes under the umbrella of how you should, and maybe actually that's where it comes from. How you should work, what is considered to be a normal pace of speech when you work. I mean, we are also in an age of communication, and so communication today is key. Maybe 100 years ago, it wasn't that important as it's today, but today communication is money, is important. So for us, people that don't communicate normally, will we be able to perform in a normal way? But again, like, disclosure, I think, proves that people that work with us don't care so much about the pace we speak at. I think, at least. I mean, your sentence is awesome also because you make them laugh, which is awesome. I think it's the best way to disclose, to to say things in a non-apologetic way, but actually, to make people laugh. I think it's a very nice way to do it. But yeah, it is tough in terms of job, and that's why I think we should, I mean, I would like one day maybe to do something more social, more political, more relational on this point of view. Maybe making some campaigns on stutter, because I think that working is, for us people who stutter, difficult, maybe even more difficult than school, maybe, because at least school is mandatory. And you're like, well, I have to go, there's no way, I but when it comes to working, it's more about like a performance that is not just evaluated, but as you said, if I'm not good enough, will I be able to be autonomous? If I'm not good enough, will I be able to to have a normal life, to have a house, to have a family, to pay for the mortgage? So yeah, it is difficult.
When we are presented a huge life-altering challenge, when we hear it, it's like, oh, my whole world is over. That's it. Game over.
Yeah.
I'm done.
It's done.
However, people who stutter, and I mean, I tell this to everybody, people who stutter, we are creative. We are resilient, and we are resourceful. And so what I did is, I practice and practice and practice, because what every coach will tell you, be it sports, motivational, any type of coach, if you want to get better at anything, you need to practice. And many people tell me, But practice makes perfect." I said, no, I do not believe in perfection. What I believe in is that practice makes permanent. So every time you practice and you practice and you practice, you are building that muscle memory. And so that way, when I have to hop on the webcam and do a training, I turn it on, I rock it out. Hey, good morning. I'm Pedro. I'll be your trainer for this morning. I do have a stutter. So if I get hung up on any word, give me 8 hours and the word will come out and they all laugh. I'm good to go. Now it's time for work.
That's
And
good.
so, I mean,
But
go.
no, you said it. I mean, disability, like, not disability. I mean, I use a lot of ideas that come from disability studies, simply because I've just found out this discipline. I know that stuttering and disability is still, some kind of a controversial issue. Are we disabled? Are we not disabled? So I'm not dealing with it. But there was a disability activist who said, living with a disability is an art. And I think it applies to what you were saying in a way, because we are very creative. Yes, when you stutter, and not just us people who stutter, but many people, on this planet, they have to be very creative. And being creative in a certain way is not a bad thing. And being creative in a way helps you also to become resilient, I think, and to find a way to do things. Because as you said, and I mean, I've met people who stutter, and they're all very resilient. They're all very resilient. There's always this kind of, yes, I can do it approach or view of life, which is I think very important. And it's something that will help you even if you're doing something in which speech is not involved, even if you're just building a guitar with your own hands. Having that kind of approach towards life, I think, is something positive that we can actually learn from or from the way you deal with stuttering, more than just stuttering itself. But for example, the disclosure strategy that you use, in my opinion, is a perfect example of a creative way of dealing not with your stuttering, but with the stigma that can be around stuttering. And with your sense of humor, you are basically creating, just with a sentence, you're creating a positive environment, a helpful environment, an empathic environment. Because I'm pretty sure that people, when you say that and they laugh, they immediately feel closer, they feel connected with you. And that is something that is key if you're a trainer. Because you can I mean, I've had a lot of trainers, and believe me, having a person like you that is, I mean, this is the first time we talk, but I can feel your empathy, so having a trainer like you is good. Having a trainer that creates that environment from the beginning, that shows his vulnerability, is actually awesome. Because as a person, it might sound a bit contradictory, but as a person, like I want to see my teacher as vulnerable. I like if my teacher is vulnerable, because I can see his humanity, and so I can relate. I can think, well, he's vulnerable like me. So if he made it, if he's doing this, I can do it too. So again, it's stuttering very often can also be an occasion, I think, to become also a better person.
How cool. Oh, I have goosebumps. That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So, okay, you were talking about if you are doing a teaching, lesson in a
Yeah.
different language, in in Italian, or whatnot, you stutter more or less.
More.
Okay.
Like English is actually I mean, because I also speak Spanish. I also stutter in Spanish. I don't stutter in English.
See,
Don't know why.
okay. So for Pedro, I stutter in English, I stutter in Spanish, I stutter in Turkish. And so
Oh,
when I was in Turkey, oh my gosh, we had to learn the language. I had like 2 weeks to, learn the, basic language, because hello, we have to eat, I need an apartment,
of course.
let's go.
You need to survive.
Exactly. So they would, you know, um, teach me, Turkish, and oh my gosh, the consonants were just rough. And so what I did, because we are creative, um, one of the words is merhaba. Okay, that means
I wanted to help you, but I cannot, because I cannot speak Turkish.
God bless you, Andrea. And so, um, I would have a hard time with that. I mean, that word means
Mm.
hello. So what I did, because we are creative, and so I would, being from Texas, I changed it to Merhowdy. And so that way, when people would, you know, meet me on the streets and they would, you know, greet me, merhaba, I would reply merhowdy. And they would look at me like, what did he just say? But it's called survival, Andrea. It's called, I had to
Yes.
adapt. I had to overcome because, I mean, being in a whole different country, you know, um, being from Texas, and going to Izmir, Turkey, Ankara, Turkey. I mean, had I
Wow.
had to adapt to their
Can I
language.
ask you something?
Mhm.
Like, did you experience some different levels of stuttering during your learning? Like, for example, when you were a beginner in Turkish, you stuttered more or less, and then when you became an intermediate, or more or less, it was always the same level. Because, for example, for me, when I learn a new language, and it's very fascinating, but I go through moments in which I don't stutter. For example, at the beginning, again, I think that from my, like, the way my brain works is that since I'm a covert stutterer, what is important for me is to hide it, so when I learn a language, for me is perfect at the beginning, because I just pretend I cannot pronounce it, or I pretend I forgot. Oh, my memory. Oh, I'm very creative with this kind of excuses. Oh my God, I forgot. I need to practice more. I'm sorry. Or I cannot pronounce that consonant. Oh, but in Italian we don't have that consonant. I'm very creative on this. And then actually I have an intermediate phase when I'm become kind of a fluent speaker, in which I actually start stuttering a bit more, but again, I can still, find an excuse. When I am an advanced speaker, generally I tend to stutter more. So was it the same for you, or did you have a different experience?
Oh, no. No. Mine is the same, across the board, for English and Turkish and Spanish. I mean, um,
Okay.
plus here is the head scratcher. I go through phases, okay? So, there will be a day or two where, I mean, everything is coming out. Andrea, everything is coming out. There's no there's no rhyme or there is no rhyme or reason. I haven't, you know, um I haven't changed my diet in any way. Everything is the
Yeah.
same. However, I will have 1 or 2 days where everything comes out. There are no blocks, there are no repetitions, and then right after that, I mean, it's horrible or moderate and then to mild. It's um th- there is no rhyme or reason. And so on my a quote unquote good days, I have people telling me, "Oh, you're just faking it." You know, you don't really stutter. It's like, you don't even know me. How can you you know, you
Yeah.
you don't know my history. I'm sure you don't hear my podcast because if you knew, you would understand that, I mean, we're all different in our speech journeys. However, we all have that common denom denominator that we have a stutter. And so,
Yes.
um, do you go through those f- those fluency
Phases.
phases as well?
Yes, in my case, I mean, I heard you talked about meditation and mindful meditation in particular earlier, and I started meditating when the pandemic started. So that made me realize these kind of things, because before meditating, because I mean, I meditate almost every day, 30 to 45 minutes, so it's kind of a regular practice. And it made me realize how my body reacts, and when I'm stressed and when I'm not, when I'm tensed, when I'm not. And like you, yes, in my case, what I think, because I mean, I'm still in the journey of understanding myself, probably a journey that will never end. But yeah, I think that it has to do a lot with stress and fear, like fear in the sense of when I'm waiting for something important, anxiety, fear, stress, in those period of time, because my body is tensed. So I can totally feel that. And I also think that this kind of phenomena, the fact that we don't always stutter, or in the same way, with the same intensity, is actually something that, as you said, other people might think, oh, you are just faking it. But it also something that for us is very, very, very mysterious, I think. And it is also very difficult in a way to deal with, because very often I think that this kind of thing gives people the impression that they can control it, or that they can not stutter, or they can hide it, and so that actually can be, in a certain way, an obstacle to accepting it, because you think, well, sometimes I don't stutter, so maybe I can hide it, maybe. While if it was more regular, actually, I think that maybe it would push us to accept it a bit earlier. I mean, at least in my case, that was the reason. That is still the reason, why I try to hide it from people, because I know that maybe, if I'm relaxed, if I meditated, I can hide it. But I don't want that. That is actually the thing that I'm trying to avoid doing. Because I think that is, in the first place, it's actually stressful. That's probably even more stressful than just blocking. I mean, all the mental gymnastics, as you said, that you have to go through. It's exhausting. The fatigue that you have simply for not blocking sometimes, and also the psychological message you're sending to yourself. It's not nice. It's not nice, I think, to not be honest with yourself and with other people, as if you were hiding a terrible secret. I mean, these are all the things that I'm trying, to rationalize, to accept, because I mean, it's a process, it's a journey, and I'm mainly talking about my experience, but I still think that this kind of variability in stuttering can be not dangerous, but can lead us to not accepting it fully.
See, and I mean, that's a that's a fascinating point that you bring up, because it took me 35 years. Took me 35 years to finally say enough is enough. When I turned 40 years old, well, today is actually my birthday. I'm now
Hey.
I'm now 51. It's all good. 51 is only a number. So, but basically
Happy birthday.
thank you, sir. Um I feel like I'm like 21, but it's all good. But when I turned 40,
That's awesome.
okay, 40 years old, I woke up. Andrea, and I had told myself, I'm done. after 35 years of just pure anguish and I mean, and agitation and frustration.
Frustration.
I mean, you know what? When when I woke up, it was emotional. It was emotional. I cried, I laughed, and then I told myself, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. Pedro is awesome. I love Pedro. And I hadn't ever, Andrea, ever, I had never told myself that. I love you. I think you're awesome. And when I did that, I kid you not, all of the anger, the stress, the guilt, and the shame, it all went away. It was gone. And a huge weight had been taken off. And a whole new world had opened up. So I had told myself every day I need to step out of my comfort zone just a little bit, because I want to see what I can do. I want to see what Pedro can do. And so every day I, I stepped out and maybe I talked to a stranger and maybe I'm ordered at a restaurant, or maybe I called a business to ask what time were their working hours. So if I had a win, oh, I did a happy dance. I did a happy dance. However, let's say I failed miserably. It's okay. It's okay, because I would learn from that mistake and then I would apply it to the next time. And so every day I stepped out of my comfort zone and had win, 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 loss, win, win, win. And so I was building momentum. I was building my confidence. And you know, that's when I realized I can do this. All of those years of everyone telling me I can't do this. I will never have a job. I will never have a career. I will never get married. I will never have kids. I mean, be, be because I have a stutter. And so I was told growing up for decades that I was stupid and that I had a form of mental retardation, and that I shouldn't do anything but stay home and get a check once a month from the government. So, if you hear that every day for 35 years, you tend to believe it. However, as you know, it has a huge impact on our bodies, huge impact, until one day I couldn't handle it anymore. I said, no, 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 no more will my stutter control me. Pedro is in control. And if I have a stutter, oh well, guess what? I will stop and breathe and carry on. If you laugh at me, that is on you. If you have to if you have to make yourself feel better by mocking me, that's on you, because hurt people. And Pedro is awesome. Pedro is going to be all
Yes.
right. If you laugh at me, oh well, that is on you. Pedro is awesome. And once I did that, Andrea, a whole new world had opened up, and that's when I embraced it. That's when I accepted it, And that's when I learned that Pedro, he can do a lot of the things that he was told that he would not be able to do because of the stutter.
I actually had a similar experience to yours. Similar, slightly different, but similar because of what you just said. When you spoke about people that are simply not happy enough or not good enough, and they need to mock other people to feel better. And I had a similar experience with well, I was giving a language exam, a Spanish language exam, and so I was stuttering a lot. Of course, I was very tensed, and I'm also a language examiner, so I know, that when you become a language examiner, they also teach you how to deal with people that maybe have, a speech impairment, or that maybe are just very anxious, or, I mean, an exam is tough for everybody at the end of the day. So you should be able to make a difference between how the people feel in that moment and what he's actually able to do. And I was very surprised because my examiner was not a really nice person, And when I say that, I mean, what I mean is that he pretend. I don't know how to explain it, but he was not listening to me. He was pretending not to listening, or that he was bothered by the fact that I was stuttering. I could, you could feel it, right? We people who stutter are very sensitive to these kind of things. We tend to try to interpret how the listener reacts. Is she or he enjoying? Is she embarrassed? Oh my God, so we're constantly monitoring other people's reactions. And from my point of view, he was clearly not enjoying the exam, and he was quite clear about that. He was not listening to me. He was rude. He at least, I mean, he even told me at one point something like, oh, maybe we don't have the time to finish, implying that my stuttering was delaying the exam. And in that moment, I realized, well, apart from, oh my God, how bad he is as a person, but okay. But I realized the fact that I generally don't stutter with people that I like or people that listen to me, And in that moment, I realized, oh my God, I'm stuttering so much simply because he is a very bad person. And I had for a moment like this realization that this wasn't just about me. There is not, no, I mean, it's not just about Andrea stuttering all the time with every person in the same way. It's not like that. And in that moment, I felt a lot of anger in a way, because I felt like, so it's not just me. They have always told me, it's you have to go to, it's your problem. Why don't you take responsibility for your problem? It's you. And in that moment, this kind of realization that is something relational, that is something that depends also on I mean, I'm not saying, I would never blame a listener, for my stutter. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that conversation is always something you do with somebody. And in that moment, I feel that burden on my shoulders, and of course, acceptance is key. And I think that what you said is the first step. It is difficult, but you need at one point to say, okay, this is enough. I want to love myself no matter what. And even if they have always been telling me, oh, you are not okay, oh, your stuttering is a problem. Well, you know what? For me, stuttering is not a problem. Stigma is a problem, but stuttering for me is not a problem in itself. And so in that moment, I realized, okay, maybe there's something I should do, not just about myself, but also about others, how I deal with my stuttering, and how also I want others to deal with my stuttering. I mean, I'm not saying I want to impose anything on anybody, but for example, just as you do, disclosing and saying people, hey, I'm open to your help if you want. Why? Because we're talking together. The training you give, it's not just you talking to a computer, it's you talking to people. So it's teamwork, as you said. And that helped me a lot in terms of acceptance, because I think that it is key, but it's also important to realize that we don't talk to a wall or to a mirror, we talk to people. And sometimes we have a bad day, not because of us, but because people were tired or were not really in the mood, or maybe were, I don't know, surprised by our stuttering. It's not always our responsibility, it's not always on us. It's not only on us, I think.
See, and you you bring up some great points. Number one, the role of the other person in our conversation. All I want, all that Pedro wants is your eye contact. I want your patience. I want your, compassion. Because what my stutter has taught me, um, and many people tell me that my stutter is a it is a curse. It's horrible. It's horrible. For me, it has been a blessing because it has taught me a great many things. And one of the things that it has it has taught me is that let it it shows me who people really are. So if I'm in a conversation and the other person, as I'm having a block, if they are looking at their watch or looking up or looking down, and maybe when I have a block, my eyes close. And when I reopen them, if the other person is gone for whatever reason, for whatever, and it's happened a couple of times, Andrea. It's happened a couple of times to Pedro. That tells me that you are not worthy of my time. It tells me that you don't have the patience, that you don't have what I need for you to have in this in our conversation. I mean, I am not asking for much. All I want is your eye contact and your patience. And if you cannot give me that, then in my head you know it it will bring up red fu- fu- red flags, and it tells me that you are not worthy of my time. And in your part particular example, I mean, he is a student, and so you have to be there. But if this was like, in regular, life, um, if the other person doesn't have the respect or patience or eye contact as we're having our conversation, it tells me that you are not worthy of my time. And then I just move on.
Yes, I agree with you completely. Again, I've volunteered for a few years with people with disability. So maybe, like starting from there also helped me in a way to be a bit more objective when it comes to these things. But yes, I mean, it is about, as you said, patience and some compassion. We are not asking for a lot, in the same way, when you're walking down the street, if you see, I don't know, an old lady or a person with any problem, or I don't know, physical impairment, or somebody that just needs some help, if you help them, well, why not? You're just being a nice person and you're helping. I mean, from this point of view, I think that stuttering is not different from any other difference in life. That can be physical, that can be about age, that can be about even helping a kid that is not that is too short to get something. I mean, it's the same idea. If we are able to actively listen to other people, because again, what I said earlier, I honestly think that listening is an active skill, is an active it's not just being passive there, but listening is caring, listening is participating, in the same way speaking is participating. So as you said, yes, it's a good filter. I also think that all these things that we're talking about, I think that they should be taught in school in general. In the same way meditation can be practice for compassion, can be a practice for kindness. I think that we should help kids being compassionate with any type of living being, and helping them realize that when we are kind, we are actually happier. So if I am kind to a person who stutters, if I'm patient, if I wait those 10 seconds more, those 20 seconds more, my day is not going to change. Actually, no, probably it's going to change, but in a positive way, because I'm creating an empathic relationship with the person. I'm learning something new, and I'm learning to help. I'm becoming a better person. So in this way, yes, in this way, I think stuttering can be good also for people that don't stutter, because if you learn how to listen, if you learn how to be compassionate, you simply become a better person. And that's why I think that education is key, but not only for people who stutter, for everybody, and in general, not just about stuttering, but we should be a bit more inclusive also in terms of how to help people, how to listen, how to care.
Yes. Ooh, how awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so have you ever experienced that negative self-talk?
Oh, yes. yes, a lot. As you said, like I think that shame is probably one of the worst feelings that we people who stutter have to deal with. Because again, we have been talking about acceptance. You said, I love myself, and shame is a difficult feeling to. I mean, how can you love yourself when you're ashamed of yourself, right? So yeah, I think I still have, when I stutter, some kind of a pattern, some kind of of a voice inside my head that says, Andrea, why did you do that? Why did you block there? Why didn't you find another word? Oh my God, people, they're gonna think you're not a good teacher. How can you teach when you stutter? Oh my God, it is difficult, because I mean, even if I don't like it, even if I don't want it, I have been absorbing these kind of things. Again, I don't think it's about stuttering itself. I think it's about stigma. That's how probably people. That's what people would tell us probably. That's what society would talk to us in a way. You stutter, you have a problem. Why don't you take control of the problem? Why don't you seek therapy? Why don't you just solve it and get out of here? Because for us, you are a problem. We don't want you to stutter, because for us, so you have this kind of messages, especially when you're at school, when you're a kid, and you don't know how to deal with them. You cannot deal with these kind of thoughts and with these kind of things that people tell you. So yes, I still have them. And I think that is probably the worst part of stuttering. That and the fatigue, the constant monitoring. If I could stutter without that, I would be the happiest person on earth. If I would simply, and that's my goal in a way, like to feel free to stutter, and without judging. I don't want to say stuttering is good or is bad. It's just something. It's there, and it's there. And yes, that is my goal. But meditation is helping me on that too, because it's not just about what I tell myself, but mostly it's about how I feel about myself when I stutter. And even though I love myself, I have a good image, I think. I mean, yes, I love myself, but when I stutter, yes, I don't have positive feelings, good emotions, and that is difficult. That is difficult. I don't know if meditation is helping you too from this point of view to realize how you feel when you stutter.
Oh, it has helped me out tremendously because, my voice, my, negative self-talk voice, I named him Oscar. I'm Oscar the Grouch. And every time he pops up, he tells me, Pedro, you can't do that. Hello. You can't talk. Why you doing that? Hello. And so what I have learned, Andrea, and I took back the control, Andrea. It felt awesome. I told Oscar to shut up. I got this. Oscar, bye-bye. And he goes away. And then I'm in that headspace. I, I am going to do this. I already have it in my head. I wrote it all down. Pedro is going to do this. And, if I have any hiccups, if I have any repetitions or any blocks, guess what? It's going to be all right. The world isn't going to end because I cannot, pronounce that one word. It's not. So if I get hung up, I'm going to stop. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to carry on. But I have learned to shut him down. And when I do, I am unstoppable. And let me tell you, he pops up. He pops up, Andrea. He pops up at the oddest, at the weirdest times. And he tells me, that you have a, you know, a presentation in a couple of weeks. And you can't do that. And it's like, it hasn't even happened yet. I said, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to do this. I'm preparing. I'm rehearsing. I am, learning everything that I have to learn. And Pedro is going to do this because Pedro is in control. You will no longer control every aspect of my life. No more. Pedro is in the, you know, a driver's seat, and Pedro is in control. And so it took me a long time, Andrea. It took me a long time, but that mindful meditation, it helps. It helps. I quiet him down. I tell him to go away because Pedro is going to do this. And he will do it, and he will be awesome. And that's it.
Yes. In my case, I think that you talked about control, which is a very interesting concept for us people who stutter, because I think, I mean, at least from my point of view, I think that maybe the shame that we feel comes from the lack of control that we feel about coming from our body. We cannot control our body, which is in a way shameful. So in a way, even if it looks a bit weird, the way that I try to stop my inner voice is by not controlling the stutter. Because my inner voice works in this way. I haven't given a name, but I will think about a name because I think it's a good strategy to deal with it. My inner voice is more like, why aren't you controlling your body? Aren't you able to control your own body. And my and what I do is refusing to control my body. So I think that control is a very difficult concept for us in a way, because we would like all the time to be in control. But at the same time, the more we try to be in control and the more we feel not in control. And when we try not to control our body anymore, in a way, we relax and we can actually feel in control. So it's right. It's I don't know if you feel the same, but for me, the feeling of control is always very difficult to grasp.
So what I do now is I do it. I do it. I try
Yeah.
not to think about it because if you think about it, oh, here comes Oscar. Hello, it's me again. You can't do this. Hello. And so what I
Yeah.
do, I said, no, 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 no. I know what I have to do in 2 weeks. I got this. I have all of the information. I have the PowerPoint. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to rehearse it. And when I have to do it, Pedro's going to rock it out. I will have a good time. I have my icebreaker, works every single time. Pedro is going to be all right. I know we don't have control. uh, I mean, 100% of the time, you, but you know, for me, I just go with the flow. I know what I have to do and I'm going to do it. There is n- there is no there is no option for failure. However, if I do fail, it's okay. I will learn from it, and so I will have that applied to the next time. So for Pedro, it's a win-win-win. It's all good. It's all good. I got this. I got this.
Okay. So in your case, tell me if I'm right, but what you do basically is simply, I mean, when Oscar talks, you're gonna maybe listen to Oscar, but you're not gonna care about what he says. You're just simply gonna do it, no matter what Oscar says. Tell me if I'm right.
Right. I do hear him telling me everything. I hear him. He tells me everything, but I tell him no, no. I I have to do this. I will do this. And when I tell him that, he goes away. He goes away because in my head, I
Okay.
have already made a decision. I am going to do this and I am going to rock it out. End of discussion. No ifs, ands, or buts. There is no gray area. Pedro's going to rock it out.
Well, you're very brave. You're very brave, because I mean, I think that for many people, it is difficult to take these kind of decisions, to simply say, I'm not going to listen to Oscar, because Oscar very often uses some good arguments, right?
Oh,
And
they're
Oscar
all good.
sometimes seems very rational,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
they're all excellent arguments.
Yes, yes,
But
yes. But that's maybe also part of dealing with negative emotion. I think that part of the challenges that we face, especially when we are very young, because when we become adults, maybe we learn how to deal with negative emotions. But when we're kids, the monsters in terms of negative emotions, the monsters we have to deal with can be really difficult to deal with, because I mean, anxiety, social anxiety, the shame. I mean, growing up with a feeling of shame, I think is heavy. Learning how to deal with that, it's difficult. It is difficult. So when you talked when you said earlier, like mental health, I think it's key for us to grow up and also learn some skills in order to deal with such negative emotions, because again, sometimes it's not even about us, sometimes it's just we have a bad listener, we have a person that is not nice, and when we are not able to discriminate and to realize it's not me, it's just a bad person, that can be very harmful, that can be very heavy for us. So yeah, I think it's always important to learn how to deal with Oscars in the plural. Right. I hope that there are no listeners here that are named Oscar.
I know.
Otherwise
I will feel horrible. Thank you, Andrea, for that. That extra added pressure. But I mean, it took me. I mean, it took me 35 years to reach that point. 35 years, because during those 3 decades, Oscar was in charge. He was in charge. Back then, he didn't have a name, but he would dictate every aspect of my life. And so I'm not talking, day by day. I'm not talking hour by hour. I'm talking minute by minute. He was always in my head. You can't do that. You can't talk on the telephone. You will bomb that, job interview. I mean, he was always there, but it took me 35 years, and that is a long time. To reach a point where no, Pedro is now in control. I have to live for Pedro, not for anybody else. And so to do that,
yes.
I need to tell myself I love you and that you're awesome and that you are confident. Even though confidence doesn't mean that you are 100% fluent. Um, you know, I still stutter and I am still confident. What that means is I love Pedro. If I have a block, it's okay. I'm still confident. I'm still awesome. I'm still gonna rock it out. And it took me, I mean, 35 years, to reach that point in my life. I wish I did it earlier, but everything happens for a reason is what
For a reason. Yeah.
is what I believe. Now, okay,
Yes.
so
Yes. Sometimes you're simply not ready.
right. All right, so here is a hot topic. All right, we have a couple of hot topics. Okay, so here is the first hot topic question. So when you are alone, Andrea, uh, 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 can you speak without stuttering?
um, this is an interesting question because I mean, I'm a podcaster too. Okay. But in my podcast, I don't interview people. I just talk because my podcast is for students. So I talk about cultural or grammatical topics in slow Italian so that people can understand. But it's not an interview. So I'm basically talking to myself. So do I stutter, for example, when I record the podcast? Yes, I stutter. I speak in Italian. I don't stutter a lot. And what is interesting is that I've seen a difference depending on who I am, on who the listener is in my head. So let's say that I'm looking for a job, right? I'm looking for a job and I'm thinking, oh, maybe some Italian schools managers will listen to this podcast. They will love it. They will call me, Andrea, please come. We want you as a new teacher. I will stutter. Easy, right? If I think, for example, to a student that I like, that is funny, that is a nice person, and I imagine that person as a listener, I will stutter less. I don't know if this counts as talking to myself. When I study languages, for example, again, This look this is a very interesting topic for me, because fluency is a concept that is inside language learning, right? But it's not the kind of fluency that people who stutter are used to. Like when you I think when you learn a language and you want to be fluent, you're not thinking about, if I'm not fluent, that means that I stutter. When you learn a language, if you're not fluent, it's simply because you're not good enough. No, you don't know lexis, you don't know grammar, you're not, simply you haven't practiced the skill. So when I practice languages, for me it's different, because I still have fluency in my head, I still have fluency as a goal. But if I fail, I don't feel the stigma. If I fail, it simply means that I have to study a bit more, that I have to practice a bit more. So I think that in a way, I mean, I don't stutter a lot when I study languages, maybe because of that, I think. And I know I've always done some exercise. I mean, I've always done some exercises that are very similar to the one that we do in speech therapy, reading aloud or even shadowing an audio, so those kind of things. But I don't do it in order to become normal. I don't do it with that type of burden on my shoulders. I do it because in my head, I want to go abroad and order some food. So food in my head is a far better goal than becoming normal,
Exactly.
And so, yes, I don't stutter so much.
See, and when I am alone, I still stutter. When I am talking to myself, as we all do, when I'm talking to myself, I'm going over my schedule in my head. When I'm talking, to my dog Ruby Jean, I still stutter. I repeat, I block, and I mean, um, when I ask my guests this, the answers are just 50-50. Some do, and then some don't. So it's interesting.
And can I ask you something? Do you feel a difference when, for example, you talk to your guests on your podcast in terms of your fluency, of how you feel, of your speech patterns, and when you work? Like, do you feel more pressure probably when you're at work? Is it the same? Because you told me, right, that you put these things into two different boxes.
Um, my, a career is is different. Because we all have to, you know, we all have to survive in this world. And in my career, I mean, I have struggled, Andrea. I have struggled. I questioned, you know, many, many, many times, can I do this? Then all of the voices from long ago, from long ago, from all of those people telling me that I couldn't do this, I could not do that because of my stutter. That's when I I have to tell myself, you have to do this. You have to do this. Life, your life depends on this. So, um, so in my, a career, um, which as I mean, um, you would probably attest to, we have to work 100 times harder than everybody else. And that is the truth. 100%. I have to work harder than everybody else to just do the most simplest of tasks. It's what I have to do. So in my, a career, I want to make sure that I can do it because everything rides on it. You know, you know, my, you know, my family and my mortgage and everything and retirement. I mean, everything factors in it. And that is a huge weight on me. However, I tackle it. I tackle it. So it's different than when I'm podcasting. When I'm podcasting, ooh, I am with my people. I am with my tribe. And then at work, I have a whole different hat. I am a trainer. I am a I am a I'm a subject matter expert in my field. And I don't um my role as a podcaster and then my role in my career are much different in that aspect. I
Yeah.
hope I
Okay.
had answered your question.
Yeah, you did. You did. Because in my case, my experience is different as a podcaster. Because as a podcaster, I am still a teacher, so I'm still teaching my students, but with the advantage that I can re-record or that I can, change the word and nobody notices. No, but I mean, seriously speaking, it's different because I mean, probably your podcast is more like on a personal level. It's not on a professional. I mean, even though maybe there are some kind of professional details or relations, but yeah, it is different. For me, I'm still a teacher. When I record my podcast, so it's slightly different.
So here is the next hot topic. Let's talk about dating. Dating is hard for everybody. I mean, I keep it real. It's hard for everybody. However, if you have a stutter, it's like
Yeah.
a million times more difficult. How did you handle dating, or how do you handle dating with having a stutter?
Okay, so again, I think there are two really different periods in my life: when I was a teenager and when I was an adult. When I became an adult. So as a teenager, I think that my dating life was almost zero. I didn't have any dating because for me it was just a huge obstacle. Again, um, I mean, I would define myself as an extrovert. I'm not an introvert. I like to stay with people, even though I have many. I mean, yes, I have many passions that like studying or reading books. I also do things. I mean, I'm not constantly social, but I like. I don't. At the same time, stuttering for me when I was a teenager was really some kind of divine punishment. So for me, the idea of also because of the culture, probably in which I grew up. So for me, dating was not even an option. Probably was not even something I could imagine. It was just beyond. Like I'm not very tall. I've never thought of playing basketball. The same thing. It's just something it didn't even arrive into my head because I was like, I stutter. Who wants to date a person who stutter? Come on. Then things slightly changed at university, and then changed a lot when I started working, because I went abroad. I lived 2 years in Spain, one in France, speaking English or speaking other languages. So I was always, I mean, for the first time, actually, I had people giving me compliments for how I spoke, which was for me a huge surprise, like when I went to Spain, for example, the first time I couldn't speak a word in Spanish apart from hola, something like that. And Italian and Spanish are very similar, so I picked up the language in a few months. I mean, not perfectly, but I could survive, right? I could speak to people, I could have a conversation. So people looking at me like, wow, I mean, especially girls looking at me like, oh, wow, just here, Italian. Oh my God, you speak after a few months. Oh, you're so Italian. I mean, for the first time, I felt flattered, for how I spoke. So that maybe was also a boost in confidence, and things started going well. But before that, yes, I think it's always a matter of also of how we imagine things. I think that a problem for us is imagining. We cannot even we don't allow ourselves to imagine futures, to imagine careers, to imagine relationships, because we are blocking ourselves from that point of view. We're not allowed to have that. Not only ourselves, people tell us very often that. So again, if we lived in a society in which stuttering was just something that happened sometimes, or something that was not valued in the way it is valued nowadays, probably we would be a bit more free to imagine these kind of things. But for me, again, when I was a teenager, it was not even something I could imagine. And when I think about it now, it's something a bit sad, that a person doesn't allow himself to imagine. It's it's not nice. It's not. I mean, but it's not just about us. Again, it's many groups of people nowadays struggle with this kind of incapacity of imagining futures for them, which is incredibly sad.
You had touched on this previously. Just a little bit. You had touched on it, but let me ask you the full question. So, do you consider
Yeah.
stuttering a disability?
So I know that in the ecosystem, right, stuttering is, I mean, it's a bit difficult, right? Some people are, yes, we have a disability. Some people know we don't have a disability. For me, what is important, apart from this question, what is important is to find ideas, is to find concepts, is to find strategies, is to find practices. If Andrea thinks or not that stuttering is a disability, is not really changing the world, But what can change the world is Andrea taking action, going to the street and doing something with somebody about stuttering. So what for me is really, really fascinating about disability, and especially disability studies, is that this discipline is very proactive, is very political, is very social. And it gave me ideas to understand the way I looked at myself, as an abnormal subject, as something that needed therapy because wasn't normal. So all these ideas, all this new way of looking at myself, I found them in these type of books that really changed the way I look at things now, the way I look at people. And it also changed the way I am trying to deal with stuttering, because in the past, I used to deal with stuttering as something that only concerned myself, so I had to do something. I had to take care of my stuttering. I had to find a therapist. But now I'm starting to realize, hey, it's better if I find people, we organize, we educate, we fight stigma, we create a better society for everybody, not just for us, people who stutter, for everybody, that is more inclusive. Because at the end of the day, if society is more inclusive, it's better for everybody, even for people that maybe are not stutter, but that have another condition, or simply, I don't know, there are so many conditions, and so many human beings are so different. So to answer your question, I still don't know, and I'm not looking for an answer, because what I'm really looking for are ideas, new concepts, new strategies, new practices that can allow us as people together to create a better world for everybody. If I find those ideas in disability studies books, awesome. If I find those ideas in other places, awesome. So yeah, I hope I I answered the question.
No, that was a beautiful answer. I mean, we need to look past it and see, I mean, everybody. I mean, because we we are all here on this earth, and what I believe is that we all, we need to help each other, be 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 there for one another, and be that good s- support system. Because I mean, we all have it. I mean, we're all different. One person may have this, and one may, have that. But when it all comes down to it, I mean, we are all humans. We just need to um help each other and be there for one another. So yeah, I mean, you
Yes.
you
Sorry if I interrupt
oh, no,
you.
no, go.
I had this experience with my podcast, because my podcast is in slow Italian. So my idea was students are going to listen to this. Well, I had several emails from people that told me, Andrea, my son has this and that. He's Italian, but he uses your podcast for school, because I talk about history, or I talk about geography. And myself, I wasn't even imagining the possibility of other people using slow Italian podcasts for other reasons. But you see, like, if you in a way find a way to help a certain group of people, for example learners that cannot still understand very well, you end up helping others. So that is the kind of, it also happened to me with my very small podcast, with my very little podcast.
How cool. I mean, we don't know the impact that we have on people around the world. And when they let you know it, it's like, oh, how cool is that? How cool is that? Now, okay, so
Yes.
what do you think about all this new technology? You have Google Home, you have Alexa, and then you have Siri. Do you think that all this new technology is helpful or hurtful for people who stutter?
This is a good question. It depends on how, I'm not a designer, but what I think is, when I create my lessons, when I create my podcast, the same for you as a trainer and as a podcaster, I think you always imagine a possible listener, all right? You always imagine an ideal listener. So that is key. So who is the ideal listener of my podcast, or who is the ideal consumer of this kind of technology? So I think that some technology is quite inclusive. Other technology is not that inclusive. I think that, for example, when it comes to speech impairments or different ways, let's call it, I don't know how to call it, transfluency, everything that is not perfectly fluent, I don't know. But when it comes to this kind of variability, inclusivity, how do you say in English, inclusivity is still a bit lacking. We have worked a lot on making tools inclusive, maybe for physical impairments. I mean, not enough. I think there's still a lot to do, but we started. When it comes to speech, I don't know what you think about it, but when it comes to speech, I have not seen yet technology that is so inclusive for us. I don't have an iPhone, so I don't know if Siri is able to deal with a person who stutter, but I don't think so.
Well, let me tell you my experience, Andrea. It isn't good. My main issue is that they don't give you time to respond. They only give you like a second. And then for me, I need at least, 9 minutes to just breathe. But you know, many people who stutter tell me that they use it as a means to practice because it's not human, which I think is extremely interesting. Plus, I have been a part of two 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 research studies regarding AI, and so right now, these uh, uh, these two colleges are creating an algorithm for people who stutter to help with Google Home, Alexa, and Siri. And so I think that is just awesome because I think it's a tool. Um, b- but for people who stutter, we need to have a couple of upgrades to just help us out.
Okay, but from your point of view, because this is interesting for me actually. From your point of view, how would you like, or what do you think technology could help a person who stutter? Like, for example, like something like Siri or Google Home. Do you think that would be a help when it comes to situations in which for us it is stressful because maybe we stutter, or do you think it would just be like technology able to understand us?
Basically, it would be both because what I want is to have the device learn my speech patterns. Plus, you know, I wanted to give me extra time to respond because I
Right.
tried Google Home. I tried asking a question, and I had a long block, and it didn't hear me, so I had to
It
repeat it.
didn't work.
And then, I tried to repeat it, but I took too long. So I just I said, "Okay, Google Home is not for me." And then when I tried Siri, it was even worse. She gave me wrong directions and topics that I was not even asking about, she had responded with. I said, "No, that isn't what I want. I don't want to learn how to color my hair. What I wanted to learn is how do I get to this restaurant?" It's like, no. So, yeah, so, you know
So in terms of accessibility,
yes, yes, yeah. But, as you know,
yeah,
technology is always changing, and so hopefully down the road, it will be more helpful um, for, people who stutter. So I have hope.
yeah,
I have hope. Now, okay, so
yes. I also just to comment very quickly on that. I don't know you, but in a way, maybe I'm maybe it's very superficial what I'm saying, but in a way, it makes me a bit proud to know that we are so uncontrollable. Not even artificial intelligence can understand us.
That's
Like we are so like,
interesting.
isn't it?
That's interesting. We have another
We are
superpower.
so uncontrollable. Yes, think about it. Not even computers can grasp, can under. I think it's very fascinating in a way.
How awesome. I just wrote that down. All right. You are hashtag cool, Andrea. All right. Now, so what is a challenge speech wise that you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
There are many. There are many. I think that I don't know if it's still, if I have overcome it, or if I'm still in the process, because I think that some challenges are just a never-ending process. But I think that speaking in public, in a way, is something that from the first exam at university to now handling a class, teaching, making people comfortable, enjoying even sometimes. I mean, actually often lessons. I think it's a tremendous. I mean, yeah, it's something for me that if I look back, it was it was a difficult path in terms of anxiety, especially because talking to a group of people, managing group dynamics, being able to be confident, even though you're expressing your vulnerability all the time, because maybe every person is expressing their vulnerability, okay, but in our case, when we are in front of people, it's really just there, right? It's just there. And so accepting I am vulnerable, and I will always be vulnerable. But at the same time, if people are not gonna treat me well, it's because they are rude, And I mean that was difficult. I think now I'm starting to enjoy when I have to speak in public, in a way. That kind of feeling that also you have when you make them laugh, when you disclose, or when you just make fun of your own stuttering. The kind of confidence that you can show when you laugh about yourself, in a good way, of course, but laughing about ourselves sometimes is good, just in a positive way, in a healthy way. I think it shows much more confidence than simply being on control all the time. I have to be on control all the time, or they would laugh. They can feel that you're relaxed. They can feel that you care about yourself, that you accepted yourself. I think people feel that. I think that yes, people feel that. So when I see, public speaking events, public speaking courses and trainings, yeah, of course, super important. But what is key, and that you cannot simply learn with a course, is that you need to accept yourself. You need to be non-judgmental towards yourself. You need to also be empathic with the listeners. I mean, you also need to be a good human being, from my point of view, to be a good speaker sometimes.
The next question you have already answered a couple of times, in bits and pieces, but I want to hear the whole answer, the whole story. So, do you think that it is okay to stutter, or is it important to keep chasing the the uh, the fluency gods?
So you want me speak? You want me to speak for a week now, right? You want this episode to go
Only
on
2 weeks. Only 2 weeks. Yeah.
for a week. Only 2 weeks. Only 2 weeks. Okay. So no, I mean, you're right. I've already answered. I think not. I mean, I don't think it's, what I will say. I don't think it's okay to stutter. In the same way, I don't think it's okay to, I don't know, to jump. There's no reason for us to give a value on jumping. So there shouldn't be any reason to judge if stuttering is good or bad. So that is my, in an ideal world, right? We would simply accept any difference as a variation. Nature is wonderful because there are many colors, and there's not one color that is better than the other, just variety. Of course, in the real world, things are different, and we have normalcy, we have, numbers and statistics and professionals that reminds us all the time what is normal, what is not normal, and that what is normal is okay, and what is abnormal is awful, right? So, of course, I think it's okay to stutter. I think it rationally. I still haven't probably been able to fully accept it and to be an overt stutterer myself. So it's easy to speak, well, not for us maybe, but it's easy to speak in the sense that, I mean, I know, I'm aware that actions are more important than words when it comes to these things. When it comes to fluency, I don't simply think that it's not important to chase it, but I also think that we should work together politically in this sense to show that fluency is a cultural value, is something that is not universal in geography and in history. Fluency is not a word that you can find in ancient books. So, oh my God, were they not fluent? No, they simply didn't have the concept. So how could they live without the idea of being fluent? Were they all sad? No, they could have wonderful lives without the idea of fluency. What I would really like to find is to find a way to help people who stutter not to chase fluency. I think that there are awesome professionals that can help you to stutter less, and I'm sure 100% that they're amazing people and that they do it with the best intentions. I would also like to have people that teach us that fluency is not a deity, is not a god, but is something that we created, is something cultural. And when I say that, I'm also saying that we can maybe change it. We can maybe find out other concepts that maybe teach us to understand our situation a bit better, that make us love ourselves a bit more, that make us feel a bit more self-esteem, and that don't make us feel bad all the time because we don't speak like, I don't know, a very fluent actor. I don't know. Yeah, but yes, and that's why it's important. It's important to politicize stuttering, and therapies are okay, but we also need some historical work, some philosophical or political or academic work that help us to reimagine, that give us new ideas. What does it mean to stutter? Why do we stutter? But like in the sense, like, why is stutter a problem? That is a question that for me is much more interesting than simply why do we stutter. We might stutter for a neurological problem, okay, but why do we have to care so much about our fluency? That is a question that for me is much more interesting.
Ooh, that's a great answer. I mean, yeah,
Thank you.
For me, it took me 35 years to just reach that point where it is okay to stutter. I'm awesome either way. It doesn't really matter. And what I tell a lot of people that when I go out there, I just talk. I talk. I don't focus on my stutter. I would rather focus on the wonderful conversation that I am having with this wonderful individual. I focus on the eye contact. I focus on the content. And if I have a stutter, oh well, guess what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to carry on. I have learned to be present. And, having learned that through the mindful meditation, it has been a gift because, the old Pedro would focus on every single word. I can do this, I can't do that. I can say this, however, these next 8 words, I cannot, they will not come out. No, no, that's the old Pedro. Now, I just enjoy the conversation that I'm talking, I'm laughing. I have the eye contact. I am engaged in the conversation, and that is what I love the most now, that I can finally enjoy a conversation. So yeah, whew. All right. So
Yeah,
here
that is
is
good. That is good.
so here is a deep question, Andrea. Andrea. I have to
Go.
roll the R's. Andrea. So what
It's a
has
bit Spanish, yes.
I know, I know. It's my
Go.
culture. All right. So you kill me, you do. All right. So what has your stutter taught you?
Hmm. Um, well, hmm. Stuttering itself, probably nothing in itself, because it's like asking me, what did jumping teach you? I don't know what you know what I've learned. What I've learned is like, or what has been difficult. The real challenge for me has always been dealing with everything surrounding stuttering. You know, so if you ask me just about stuttering itself, nothing. If you ask me about the whole amount of stigma, ideals, models, emotions, feelings, a lot, a lot. In terms of emotions, well, I'm still learning. It's I'm still learning, but I think that the thing is about learning how to deal with negativity, learning how to deal with negative emotions, realizing when a negative emotion is, how can I say, is really being destructive, and realizing how to not simply to deal, but how an emotion, when an emotion is yours, and when an emotion is caused by stigma, by society. Because I can feel, because I mean, if I imagine a society of people who stutter, everybody stutter, everybody stutters, I wouldn't feel ashamed, I wouldn't feel depressed, I wouldn't feel anxious all the time if I have to speak. So it's not just about myself again, it's also about realizing when it's my problem, and when it's a problem that I have individualized, that is inside myself, but that come from the outside. This is something that I have been thinking a lot about, and that's why I'm always talking about a political view on stuttering, because sometimes it's not just about ourselves. So that is from an emotional point of view. I've learned a lot. I'm still learning. From a more rational point of view, well, I studied philosophy, and I wanted to be a teacher, but I've always loved to read books and study books on philosophy, and I wrote my final dissertation on power, so it has always been there, and just recently I've started to connect philosophy and stuttering. and that for me is huge, because it's given me it's connecting the dots, and it's given me frameworks, ideas, concepts to understand how stuttering is a social construct, how stuttering is imposed on us, how we create subjects, and so on. So I don't know if stuttering taught me something, but I'm pretty sure that a person who stutters has to go through a lot of things. And that's what I would also tell a kid and their parents. Your kid is going to go through a lot of things, emotionally, rationally. What will make a difference are the tools that he or she will have to understand, to become a good person, because stuttering can be, or the effects of stuttering or stigma, all that kind of negativity can really be destroying, can really be heavy. If you don't learn how to deal with that, it can be really destructive. So that is the thing that probably, like everybody, every person who stutters has to go through this kind of thing, and has, in a way, like you did, to learn to accept himself, to love himself. That's an incredible lesson. There are many people that don't stutter that never learn how to love themselves. So again, I wouldn't say it's stuttering that taught you how to love yourself. Of course, Pedro, it was your inner strength, it's who you are. It's your character, it's the value you have that helped you to learn that lesson. But yeah, stuttering can be also in a way an opportunity.
See, that is a wonderful answer, and so you also had answered the next question, so I'll skip that one. I'll get to the last one. All right. So here we go. Here is the last question, because you had answered multiple questions with your last response, and
I talk a lot. Huh?
No, that was awesome. That was awesome. Okay, so Andrea, because I can't roll the R's. Andrea. So if you had the opportunity, I'm trying, I really am. If you had the opportunity,
Pedro.
gotta roll them R's. So if you had the opportunity to be on the world stage and to give the world insight about stuttering, what message would you convey?
A message. Well, it is difficult. Only one message. Well, probably I would talk about fluency, and I would but if it's just one message, maybe I think that the core of everything is about being compassionate and being kind to others. So I might, I'm very good at making monologues. I even have a podcast, so you can imagine. But if I only, if I had to be brief and just send one message, what I would say is be compassionate, try to help a person. We're just talking about stuttering, so try to help a person who stutter, being an active listener, engage in the conversation, ask. There's no problem if a person who stutters is still not ready to talk about his stuttering, or is not still ready to disclose it. Maybe some people are not at that point of their path. Ask in a nice way, be nice, try to make the person who started comfortable. Just be a nice person, I think that would be the only message that I would really like to share with the people. Be nice people, be kind, be patient. Listening is not a passive activity. Think about when you want to learn a language, listening is an active practice. So just be a bit more patient. That's all.
And that is an awesome message. Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the nose. Patience and compassion. I mean, and have the really good eye contact. I really like that. Me, I'm still learning how to have my eyes open when I have a block, but it's okay. I'm still learning. I learn every day. I'm 51 today, and I'm still learning, so it's all good. It's all good. So,
It
Andre,
is.
I want to thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, I could talk
Pedro.
for you for days. I can talk for you for days and days. You have that just that that easy tone. I mean, and I can't wait to hear your podcast because I will write it down. But I wanna thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, we have been talking for almost 3 hours, Andrea, 3 hours. It has been
Yeah,
a wonderful conversation, and so I
huge
wanna
pleasure.
say just thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I have, listeners all over the world, and many are in Italy, and so, let's say they wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way?
Well, maybe the easiest way is to look for me on LinkedIn. You can look for me there, Andrea Callegaro. Or maybe you can find me on Instagram on Italiano con Andrea, which means Italian with Andrea. Italiano con Andrea. And on Instagram, you can find my podcast. You can find pictures because I teach Italian also on Instagram. So, I mean, it's quite easy when you get on my Instagram.
Um, w We will have those links in
Thank you.
the, podcast notes, and so that way anybody from around the world can go there and just check out your awesome podcast, and once
Thank you.
again, I wanna say just thank you, thank you, thank you. Uh, uh, uh,
Thank you, Pedro.
let me, ask you one thing. I have a request. Okay, so in Italian, can you tell me happy birthday in Italian?
Okay. Well, it's slightly different from Spanish since you speak Spanish, but we say buon compleanno.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Try to
Um,
say it.
oh
Buon
my
compleanno.
god. Bueno cumpleaños.
Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
good.
A
Okay, good.
slight Spanish accent,
Yeah.
but that's perfect.
We say feliz cumpleaños. Yeah, over here.
Feliz
So
compleanno.
it's all good. It's all good. Well, sir, I mean, you have been hashtag awesome. I mean, you are an inspiration. And I mean, I can't wait to hear your podcast. I encourage everyone, go to his podcast, give him 5 stars on Apple. I mean, he is just hashtag awesome. And so, down the road, let's have one more 3-hour conversation because I can talk for you for days. I mean, you have that easy voice, and I mean,
Same for me.
you have such a unique perspective, and so uh, I appreciate that. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend, a great afternoon, and down the road, we will talk again.
I hope so, Pedro. It was a pleasure. Thank you again for having me.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
If you like this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again.